So tomorrow is Black Friday. For anyone who still has a few rand available to splurge, there are bargains to be had. And while we know it's important to do our research about price history of products, there are important questions we all need to be asking ourselves about the purchases we make. SA startup Curbon aims to get us up to speed on not only shopping sustainably, but also making decisions about offsetting our carbon footprint when we do make online purchases. And I'm joined now by Steffen Burrows, who is co-founder and director at Curbon. Steffen, so talk to me. This is it's an e-commerce, it's a carbon offsetting tool. Explain to me how it works.
Hi, and evening to your listeners. Yeah, so Curbon's launch product is an e-commerce carbon offsetting plugin. So we sit in the checkout workflow of a partner's e-commerce store, and how it works is our plugin estimates and calculates the emissions of products sold online. So say there's a customer purchases a white pair of sneakers. Mm-hmm. Our plugin will pick up that white pair of sneakers, link that to data in our database, and then the customer is given the opportunity to offset those emissions, to compensate for those emissions.
So why should the customer pay for something the company's done wrong?
So, companies globally, there's a massive shift with companies doing their part in reducing their emissions. But locally there's a delay. And also, it's a massively resourceful, intensive process to calculate and reduce the emissions internally. Long term, we would love to see companies to start doing it. We also work with companies. We will be working with companies to try reduce the emissions in their value chain. But we see this as a first step for companies to show their customers that they are starting the process of doing their part in the fight against climate change, and also to provide customers who are keen and who are willing to pay a bit extra to have a more sustainable shopping experience.
So talk to me about, so am I right that if I went on to any of the online shopping sites, have they all bought into this, or is it just some of the major ones? Talk to me about how widespread this facility is.
Yeah, so we've just launched. We are going to be onboarding all our stores early Jan. We've got some really exciting stores who've come on board. Some really some industry leaders in the sustainability space. But yeah, those are all going live beginning of January. We're just using Black Friday to try to create awareness around carbon emissions and the carbon emissions of consumerism, and that there's something we can do about it. Curbon hopes to offer that.
All right. So the idea is that, let's say I buy a few items, it goes into my shopping basket, I'm going to check out online, and then it says, would you like to pay for offsetting the carbon that it's cost to create these products? And I say yes. Roughly, what am I going to pay?
So yeah, it varies depending on product type. There's the lower end of the product spectrum, which is like vegan produce. That's below 1% of your cart total, and then it can go as high as 8% for electronic goods. We know the electronic goods have the minerals in electronic goods highly environmentally detrimental. So yeah, they're on the upper end of the spectrum. Shoes and clothing are around the 2 to 3% of the cart total. So yeah, it varies based on product type.
I see. And where does the money go?
So yeah, we support local South African carbon credit projects. So the funds go straight into projects which reduce CO2 emissions and empower communities. We've got some really exciting projects. If you go on our website, you can look them up. There's the Wonder Bag project, which hands out clean cooking stoves or alternatives to women in lower income communities. We've got the Stellenbosch recycling project, which reduces emissions and empowers waste pickers in the Stellenbosch community. There's a low carbon housing project in Khayelitsha, and then we've got a couple of cool international projects. But we've really try to focus on the South African projects because of their massive socioeconomic impact. So whilst customers are reducing emissions, they're also empowering communities in South Africa, and we see them as interlinked, and one can't go without the other.
So we're not really, we're not reducing the actual carbon emissions, but we're helping communities and organizations that are trying to create sustainability. Is that right?
So these projects we support, they are reducing emissions, and that reduction in emissions and sequestration of CO2 is sold in the form of a carbon credit. However, each carbon credit has a number of co-benefits, some more than others.
Okay.
And we really try to look at those credits which are reducing CO2, as every carbon credit does, but also having a big socioeconomic spin on them as well.
Okay, so I mean, it does sound like quite a good idea, but it sounds like the sort of thing that when times are tight, you're going to go, look, sorry, mate, but I actually can't afford to pay this extra money. How worried are you about launching it at this time?
So, yeah, I mean, South Africans are cash strapped. I think globally everyone's cash strapped. I think, you know, the numbers will show. I have a good conviction in South Africa's level of sustainability consciousness. You know, we've seen some great brands emerge in South Africa that have done really well in the space, and we really want to tap into that market and potentially expand the scope. You know, it's between 2 and 5% on average, and we really hope that people can see the benefits over and above CO2 emission reduction. You know, the socioeconomic benefits to this as well. But yeah, the numbers will tell. We really are. We're optimistic, and yeah, we think it's a great solution for merchants. You know, to take that first step in their sustainability venture.
And I suppose what it does is it creates consciousness on part of the consumer, and whether it's asking yourself, do I really need another pair of shoes, Ropiwa Madzena, or do I really need another lipstick, Sally Burdett? That is the other side of sustainability, perhaps not over shopping, but certainly if you are making those purchases and you know it's having an impact on the economy, this is a system that you could consider. Thank you so much, Steffen Burrows, who is co-founder and director at Curbon, which is an e-commerce carbon offsetting program, which essentially offers you the opportunity to offset some of the carbon emissions that you are creating when you go shopping.